My guest today is Ida Stanley from Calgary, Alberta. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about Ida. Ida is currently a mental health therapist in Calgary part-time, and she did attend a residential school and then went on to university. And at 18, she was the youngest single foster mom in Alberta, I believe it was. And
Mm.
she has done many, many things, including being editor of different newspapers. She's been a public relations officer. She started literacy programs in different places and worked for the John Howard Society. She's going to be talking about all this, but she's done a lot of things. She's also got a Canadian a National Award for her work on literacy volunteer program, and she was hired by the Secretary of State in Ottawa and wrote a book, Learn to be the Boss in Plain Language, which I know she'll talk about. She's was also a speaker at the University of Calgary talking about helping vulnerable people. She was a manager of the helpline in Alberta for literacy. And Ida also got a job with ADAC, which is in the Alberta Alcohol and Drug Abuse Commission. She's involved in AA currently, and she likes to support the women in the program. And Ida, I know she attends the Recovery Church here in Calgary, and she loves to watch the Calgary Center for Spiritual Living online. And she says that she loves the music in at both of those centers. So
Mm.
I think that's great. We all love great music. And one thing I know, just from listening to Ida's story, she has a huge heart for people, and she continues to help those that are struggling with addictions or mental health. And I'm excited for her to share her story. There's a lot in her spiritual journey, and she's definitely been divinely guided in life and watched over, as you will all
Mm.
hear as she shares her story. So, welcome, Ida.
Thank you. Wow. I didn't, I guess that's what happens when you're old. You have lots of experiences.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've done a lot of things. So I just thought, and you do have a lot to your story, so we're going to try to get it all in here. So I just wanted you to start with your background, and you shared how you were born. Finally, your mom had so many miscarriages, and you were a preemie. So you can maybe share that story, how you started out, and go from there.
So my name's Ida Stanley, and I'm here to share my story, which has been a real spiritual journey. And I've had so many experiences, like Shelley generously shared, but I've also felt that I've loved every part of it, not necessarily the politics of my journey, because I one time had an advisor say to me that since I was Aquarian and since I was also ADHD, that my thinking was going to be different from everybody else's. And she certainly proved to be right.
Mm.
So this is my spiritual journey of the last nearly 73 years. So my parents got married when they were 19 and 20 years old, and here in Alberta. And that summer, um, the summer of 1940, was the Second World War was on. And so my dad immediately enlisted into the Royal Canadian Air Force. So then he traveled by train to Vancouver. With a bunch of others from Alberta. And he was going into training as a pilot. And so he arrived, settled into the base, and then grabbed a friend, and they decided to head down to Vancouver because they'd never been to Vancouver before. And so hopped on a bus. And so suddenly Dad said, "Okay, we're getting off here." Buddy said, "Okay, here we go." And then Dad started running in a direction, and so he went along with it, and then Dad ran right into a restaurant, and there sat my mother,
Wow.
and and it just was too spooky for the friend. He said, "This is so weird. I've got goosebumps. I know that that you did not know that your wife was in Vancouver." And so it just was. the first story that our parents shared with us about how they experienced extrasensory extrasensory perception and ESP.
Yeah.
And we they had grown up, of course, without phones. And my dad always said that when he saw my mom come to uh, get some cream from the creamery where he worked, he knew that she was the one. She had nine sisters, but
Uh,
she came to borrow some or get some cream from the creamery to meet him. And so it was a love story right from the beginning.
oh,
And so that was part of our life. Dad also shared during the war that he had divine wisdom and divine intervention, especially in two different situations. One time, this co-worker got off an airplane uh, and from his crew and saw this jar just like this.
yeah.
And it had this clear liquid in it, and he drank it. He thought it was water, but it was hydrochloric acid.
Wow.
And Dad immediately went into saving mode and saved his life. And
Right.
another one was he was supposedly on a training mission with this flight instructor, and there was a very dangerous situation where England set up wires across the entranceway into some of their main cities so that if German airplanes came across, they would be sliced up by the wires. And they ended up in the middle of this situation. The instructor just panicked and Dad said, "Well, God help me get through those wires." And he always gave God full credit.
Wow.
And so we've just taken it for granted that there was divine intervention if you asked for it.
Right.
Um, my parents were married, like I said, in 1940, and my mom had 13 miscarriages. And so I was the first live birth in 1953. And a Dutch doctor called Dr. Wiggerink saved my life. She had delivered babies during the war in Holland and preemie babies. And she put me in an incubator and saved my life.
Yeah, because you're
And
2 months preemie, right?
yes, yeah, I weighed 3 pounds, and my dad said I fitted into the palm of his hand, and he could put his ring around my wrist
Wow.
and his wedding ring, and a cup fitted over my head. I was just very tiny.
Wow.
And so I was in the incubator for 2 months, and my mom was 37 mile or kilometers away on a farm without any phone, and she was busy looking after the farm and her two adopted daughters. And so um, I felt very strongly that we still communicated by ESP,
Yeah.
and that we communicated with ESP before I was born, and we just continued on after.
Yeah, that's
And
amazing.
because I don't think I've ever felt abandoned, and I always felt that I had that resource. My parents said it was because they were both had Irish fathers,
Okay.
and and then my dad's mother was part Cherokee and part Norwegian Laplander or Sami.
Oh, okay.
And so my heritage was that these Irish women came over and supported their family during the Irish famine.
Yeah.
And then my grandmother's family came over from northern Norway. Imagine crossing that ocean way back then.
Yes.
And then they came up to Alberta because there was a large Norwegian um, family settlement by Camrose.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, and so we decided that it was the Indigenous and the Irish background that maybe gave us this extrasensory perception gift. And
That that
that
is not ordinary, Ida.
no, no, and I just took it for granted until I was in school, and then I thought, well, just send your, somebody to be talking. I said, well, if you're so upset, why don't you just send your parents an ESP message? Nobody knew what I was talking about. I used it with my family.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't speak any English till I was 3 years old, and my auntie was combing my hair, and she pulled on it, and I spoke in perfect English. That hurts, and everybody went, "What?" Because I just spoke this gibberish and had this ESP thing
Right.
going.
Oh,
And so my brother was born 14 months later, and again, Dr. Rigerink saved his life. They put this is a new invention, these incubators, and they put too much oxygen in our eyes, in the incubator, and it affected our eyes. My
oh,
brother was almost blind,
wow.
and he was wearing glasses by the time he was 9 months old.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
and but my eyes weren't nearly as bad, but I've worn glasses most of my life.
Okay.
And being so premature, we had to go to the hospital a lot, and we got pneumonia a lot because our lungs were not fully developed. We got tonsillitis, all that sort of thing. And again, here we are. We're communicating with our parents by ESP because they still don't have a phone.
Right,
And
right. It
and
came
like
in handy.
right, and my dad was a farmer, and he would be working down on another acreage, a piece of land, and he would send mom a message, and she would gather us all up and say, "Okay, we got to go help dad," and we'd drive down there and that sort of thing. Well, anyway, one time he came in and he was madder than a hatter. And he
Yeah.
said, "Didn't you get my message?" And mom said, "Yeah, I got message, but I got bread in the oven." The heck with the bread. Next time you get an ESP message, you come.
That's a
So
cute story.
that's yeah, and we just took it for granted.
Yeah,
And then my dad bought me a wild Mustang right from the Rocky Mountains, and right from his indigenous friends.
yeah.
And my little horse would just stand so still while I shimmied up his front leg, grabbed the mane, and I didn't need a bridle or a saddle. And that horse and I just communicated.
Wow.
And that's one of my precious memories of my childhood. And then my dad tried to ride him. And literally, he was my horse. And he told dad that by just running totally out of control, like a wild Mustang. And dad broke a bit trying to control this horse.
Oh, that's
So,
you
and
had
then,
such a connection, hey?
yeah, 15 years later, I was on a mountain out tripping ride, and there was Ginger, my horse, and we recognized each other, and it was just such a beautiful, they use horses for healing
Right.
and mental health purposes, and I certainly understand that
Yeah,
because my horse understood me.
yeah. That's a beautiful
So
story.
yeah, so this farm, we hadn't any phone, we didn't have any running water, we limited electricity, mom did her wringer washer wash and then hung it up on the line
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. But we always were very thankful for what we had and gave grace at our meals, and mom would say our prayers at night with us. And we went every summer to our grandparents, who lived in a tiny little hamlet, and they had visiting um, missionaries come, and we would stay with grandma for 2 weeks, grandma and grandpa.
Yeah.
But I got to sleep with grandma because I got leg aches all the time, and I was born sort of as a result of my grandmother being taken to Edmonton with breast cancer, and mom went in. Mom was just devastated. Her mother-in-law was her best friend,
Right.
And so she sort of treated me special, and I'll never forget that. I always felt so loved.
Mm.
And my grandma had uh, two sons go to war, and dad came back, but her other son didn't.
Yeah.
And she said that
Yeah.
her son came, and when he was shot down over Holland, he came back and told her, I'm I'm I've been killed,
Mhm.
but I'm okay.
Oh,
And so people would say, well, he was missing. She says he's not missing. He's with God.
yes.
And I know it wasn't comfortable, but she knew
Yeah.
what had happened.
Gave her
Uh,
such peace, say, to see him
yeah,
that way and him
yeah,
come to her. That is such a special. You hear these stories, but not everybody gets that, right?
yeah. So we moved from the farm into a town, and that was just an ordinary sort of a lifestyle. Um, and then Dad um, moved, got a better job at in Peace River. So we moved from Central Alberta to Peace River when I was about grade 10 or
Right.
age 10, and so um, it was still quite primitive up there in some places. And one of my friends in grade 6, his mother was a war bride
Oh,
and from Poland, and she was a very high class lady, and her husband, this Canadian, told her about owning a farm and all that. And so she came over. She ended up having 5 children in 5 years
oh,
in
wow.
this little hut that didn't even have a floor. It was a dirt floor, no
Oh,
electricity, no running water, no phone.
wow.
And she ended up becoming mentally ill, and who would blame her? And
Right.
so she was taken to the hospital in the little town, and she ended up uh, dying by suicide.
Oh,
And in the very hospital where she went to get help.
right.
And I just was devastated for my friend.
Yes.
And he was the oldest of the 5 kids. And then my girlfriend, pa parents lived a couple of miles out of town, and her dad ended up shooting his her mother, and
Oh,
and she died. And her little brother walked in those 2 miles to find somebody with a phone
wow.
to get help. And I just felt so helpless for my friends,
Yeah.
and how the women were so victimized. And and I decided I wanted to become a lawyer. And my dad said, "You can't be a lawyer and a Christian too."
Oh, okay. He didn't
Oh,
think they went
oh,
together.
oh, okay then, And so I dedicated myself. Here I am, 12 years old, and I'm dedicating myself to help others to help themselves. That's been my slogan my whole life.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
beautiful.
then I think Dad sort of realized that this isn't what he planned when he moved up there. And so he had been raised Anglican his whole life, and so he basically gave my brother and I to the church.
Right.
And my brother went away to a wilderness school, and run by the Anglican Church, and it was brutal. They would snowshoe 20 miles in a day in the middle of winter. Kids lost their toes, and
Oh my goodness.
and they got hit with a rod, they called it.
Yeah,
And I went to an all-girls residential school
yeah,
in Saskatchewan, which was just thousands of miles, well, over 1,000 miles from my house.
right.
And it was just a total world, different world.
Yeah.
They ate differently. There were 6 girls in one little tiny room, and there'd be 2 bunk beds on each wall. And then on the fourth wall, there would be a built-in dresser, and a closet. Closet was about 3 feet wide for 6 people, like, and we each got one drawer for all the clothes that we owned.
Wow.
And the girls just cried themselves to sleep. I was Métis, but they were fully Indigenous, and they cried themselves to sleep every night, and they got penalized when they spoke their own language.
Right. And
So
Ida, you said you were in a wheelchair because,
yes, yeah, I was just so homesick that I developed juvenile arthritis
okay.
and or rheumatoid arthritis, and yeah, I was in a wheelchair for a while, and I would take 4 baths a day, um, one in the morning, one at noon, one after school, and one at bedtime,
Oh, okay.
just to stop. And remember when I said my legs were aching, and then they just stopped working for a while.
Wow. Wow.
So I read a book called um, Mr. God, This is Anna, and that developed my conversations with God even more.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just talk to God when I saw things that were upsetting and stuff, and um, and then I would also just use the ESP messages to talk to my mom,
Right.
who was over 1,000 miles away. We had one phone for 80 girls,
Yes.
and so uh it was hard to get on there, and so I would send a message to mom to phone me, because um um the people would answer that phone and call the person, and I would try to be right there. The other thing is that if I called collect, it was too expensive.
Right.
Yeah, because by now my parents are living in town, right?
Yeah.
So I did my high school in residential school. So part of my after high school, I was hitchhiking once, and this is a funny little story. And I saw this fabulous sports car coming towards us, and
Mm-hmm.
with my girlfriend, and I said, "Okay, the driver's going to be my date, and you can have the passenger." And 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 he was such and he stopped, and we end up dating. He was, I think, a godsend,
Right.
because I was so homesick, and I felt out of place,
Yes.
and so that was so neat that God sent me a friend
Mm.
that
Oh,
and I loved cars,
okay.
and I love sports, and I love music, and so we just got along great.
Oh,
And but one time our eating room was downstairs in the basement, and I was eating supper or dinner, however you call it, and I got an ESP message that I was going to get a phone call from him or someone, about him. So I ran upstairs, and sure enough, I got a phone call, and he had been in a really bad accident.
oh,
And so I went and saw him in the ICU, and he recovered. But it just shows another example of how human beings can communicate so
yeah.
effectively with ESP, and it's a gift.
Yes.
Anyway, the summer after, uh, in between, one time I was working as a waitress, and I had this guy sort of hanging around, and talking me up during the day, and at the end of my shift, he asked me to go for a motorcycle ride. And oh, I'm just naive, and I go, sure, okay. And we were parked along the Wapiti River outside of Grand Prairie, and this guy says to me, well, I'm going to have my way with you. And that I got this message, you're in real danger here, lady.
Yeah.
And he could kill you and just throw you in the river. and nobody would ever know what happened.
Exactly.
And God sent me this message that was totally different than what I've ever heard anybody else ever say. And I said, well, that would be a major accomplishment. I weigh 80 pounds and you weigh 180 pounds, you
Right.
know. And, and I guess it sort of jarred him, you
Yeah,
know. I
threw him
wasn't
off. Yeah.
begging for my life or anything. And so he took me home safely.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that
That
was in that relationship.
that was divine, definitely. You had the
Yeah.
right words to throw him off,
Yeah.
right?
Who would know that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I was at the University of Alberta, I studied community development, political science, history, and economics, preparing to go into law, much to my father's chagrin.
Right.
And in my third year, I contacted the Hong Kong flu, which was one of the original COVIDs.
Oh, wow.
And I was extremely ill because as a preemie baby, my lungs weren't functioning right.
Right.
And so I was coming home from an exam, and I actually went unconscious in a snowbank.
Oh,
And in the wintertime, like the exams at January
yeah.
and or early February, and so someone found me. I
Mhm.
mean, took me to the campus infirmary. Anyway, I recovered
Mhm.
and they taught me chess to bring back my memory.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I thought that was sort of a neat idea.
Yeah,
And it's a pretty simple idea, but it worked,
it worked.
you know.
Wow.
Yeah. There was no real speech therapists or anything,
Okay.
because it was just a little infirmary, you know.
Right, right.
Anyway, then Easter came and I was just still recovering. And I went to the floral shop down the way and with 89 cents, that's all the money I had,
Mhm.
and asked if I could buy one flower.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, one that's almost dead.
Yeah.
Just to cheer me up, being away from everybody for Easter. And so the lady disappeared, and then she came back with a whole bouquet.
Oh,
And I says, "Oh, I can't afford that." And she said, "Oh, happy Easter."
oh.
And I just think that was another God intervention.
Yeah,
You
a
know,
beautiful
I
gift,
needed to pick
right?
me up,
Yes,
and another assurance, that I'm being watched.
exactly.
And later that Easter break, I caught a ride with a girlfriend with an old car, and we're going 150 miles to go visit my grandma and grandpa, and no seat belts. And we were heading out east, and when we're still in Bonnie Doon, um, it was icy, and she ran into the car in front of us, and I ended up with a neck and brain injury when I hit the windshield.
Oh boy.
And so I couldn't continue with my plans to be a lawyer. So I guess Dad had his way.
Right.
So I went back up to Grand Prairie, and I was a marketing person for Swan Industries, which is a woodworking facility for the mentally challenged.
Okay.
And they were such beautiful people to work with, and they made me part of their work family,
Yeah.
and it was a lesson that I needed to learn, and I've been so glad that I got that job.
Yeah.
And then I went on to be the City of Grand Prairie's Senior Citizen Affairs Coordinator. So
Oh,
here's this 19-year-old girl, um, um, being tucked in there as giving advice to older people or coaching them, I would say.
yeah.
And we got lots done. We got wheelchairs for people. We got a bus that could accommodate those wheelchairs. We did all sorts of social outings. And I noticed that a lot of their pain, both physical and mental, disappeared when they were involved with each other,
Right.
playing mini golf
Yes.
or trying to be fishing or something like that. And
Oh,
so that was another really important lesson.
yeah,
I formed an advisory committee so they could take over their own journey and have accessible sidewalks and stuff like that, have sidewalks modified and stuff.
yeah. And there was your heart from when you said when you were 12 and you had that heart to help people, right?
Yeah.
It's played out all
Oh,
through
yeah.
your life, right?
Yes. Yeah. So then I became the rehabilitation counselor at the assessment center, and because that was just a summer job.
Yeah,
And so then when so like I think you were right. I was just closer to 18, but in between 18 and 19.
yeah,
And that was sort of a holding center for um, people that were still waiting for find a foster home or were supposed to go to jail down to Edmonton and stuff, the detention center.
right.
Anyway, at that point, I think Alberta had the highest incarceration rate of young children in maybe the world because we just didn't have enough foster parents. So
Right.
it was terrible. Anyway, two Indigenous girls were supposed to be shipped to Edmonton, and I said not in my time. And so, like you said, I became what I think was one of Alberta's first young single foster parents.
Yes.
And like how much should had I lived on my own? Not I
Yeah.
had lived on my own, but not, paid rent and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Anyway, so yep, there was the three of us and the three musketeers, I called us.
Yeah.
And so just before they were going to graduate from grade 9, and it was just so exciting. One of the girls who had an abused or traumatized um, in the past, like literally that one gal had been living on the street in Edmonton. And so we were having this discussion, and somehow she just lost it. And in mental health, we call it flipping your lid, so that your executive thinking isn't working anymore, and you're just working from your emotional brain.
Yes.
And so she slapped me. And like a good Christian, I turned the other cheek and she slapped it too.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Well, that didn't go as planned.
Oh,
And so then she pushed me down and sat on my stomach and just started punching me in my face and in my head.
oh,
And so the other gal they're both bigger than me, of course.
yes.
The other gal pulled her off and called my parents and they drove me to the ER. And so I managed to tell the doctor what's happening here. And and so he must have phoned social services.
Right. Yes.
And so then the worker came the next day and said, well, she was taking this gal out of my home.
Right.
And I says, no, no, no. I didn't go through this beating to have you just whisk her away
Wow.
and then not be accountable for what she did, but also for me to learn to handle things differently. And I said, my love for her is unconditional,
Wow.
and we're going to do this together.
Wow.
And we did. The three of us. They both graduated, and instead of being incarcerated, they went home
Wow.
as graduates in grade 9.
That's amazing, Ida, because
Yeah,
many people would not have done what you did. So I feel like something was in your heart, right, to go
yeah,
forward because that's very traumatic what you went through, and most
yeah,
people wouldn't go and push through it. But you had that in your heart. It's like that God thing, right, inside of
yeah.
you, and you
Well, and it
had
was
that
helping
love,
others help themselves, right?
right? You had that so
Walking away isn't going to help.
right.
Yeah. So,
That's amazing.
um,
Yeah.
I went on to become a stringer or a part-time reporter uh, for the uh, for the Grand Prairie Weekly called The Focus.
Right.
And then I became a reporter,
Yeah.
and then I became editor.
Yes.
But while I was a reporter, I was putting what we used to have the TV guide in every newspaper, right?
Right.
And I was putting the pictures of the snowbirds on the front page of the TV guide. And when my hand touched this one particular picture, I just uh, almost lost my breath, and I said, this one is going to die tonight during the show. The airplane's going to crash.
Right.
How did I know that? I don't know how I knew that.
Yeah.
And and he did die.
Wow.
And I phoned my sister and I said, I knew he was going to die. And she says, I know, I saw the plane crash before it happened too.
Wow. So you
And we
also,
discussed, would there be any point in telling anybody?
yeah.
And we decided no, they're just going to call us crazy, you
Right.
know.
Right. What to
And
that, right?
so anyway, but there was a plowing match up at Wanham, just north of Grand Prairie, and um, I got to go in it as the media, and there was a lot of us. I was the only female,
Hmm.
and I won the plowing match.
Yes. Yes.
That was so funny. He said, "How did you know how to drive this John Deere?" And I says, "Well, my car is green."
Yeah. Yeah.
So after I got that job, I went to London and Holland and S Sweden and Finland
Oh, wow.
and just for my first holiday, you know. And so this is a story you haven't heard yet.
Okay.
So I went to Denmark and I saw the Little Mermaid.
Oh,
And she is very little. She's only
right.
about 3 feet high on
Yeah.
a rock. And
Right.
and so I'm looking at her, and then there's these two guys, and of course I'm a photographer for the newspaper, right? And
Yeah.
these guys have this amazing camera. So they didn't talk English. They sounded like they were Russian or something. So I went, "Oh, can I see your camera?" And I don't let them answer. I grab the camera,
Okay.
and and I look through the camera and lens. It's all graded. And they weren't taking pictures of the Little Mermaid. They were taking pictures of the naval base behind the Little Mermaid across the bay
Wow.
and with a telephoto lens.
Oh,
And
goodness.
I went, "Oh, I'm going to die,"
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
these guys are spies. And
Right.
I just pretended I was a, a stupid little giddy girl. And I went,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's so great. Thank you so much." And I'm sure God told me how I got out of that.
Right. You just
This
acted
is
as
what
if
you
you
do.
didn't know anything, which is exactly what you should have done. Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, you're so guided, Ida.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Because, oh man, that was serious. They were
Of
yelling at
course.
me in Russian.
Oh
And
my
holy cow, I could have, if they had known I was a journalist, I
yes.
would have been in big trouble.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, I one other time when I was still there, I some friends and I were going to go for a drive out to Dawson Creek, which is, west of Grand Prairie.
Yeah.
And it was a great big hill. And I saw myself being in an accident. And I got this screaming headache. And I know that my creator was trying to tell me not to go, but
Yes.
I did. And we did have a tire blowout and we had a rollover accident and stuff. And instantly my headache went away. It was like, okay, you don't need the message anymore.
Wow.
But so I thought that, okay, I better start listening.
Yes.
And then I went back to Calgary to study journalism at Mount Royal.
Okay.
And it was Mount Royal College then.
Okay.
And they allowed smoking in the classroom.
Oh, gee.
And I'm allergic to smoking and with my undeveloped lungs. And so I started a group on campus called Group Against Smoking in Public, which was called GASP.
Okay.
And so then we wrote some stories. And so then I got called into the dean's office
Yeah.
and I said, well, when I was taking pre-law, I got honors. And I don't think I'm getting honors. And I was being a little creature because I said, I don't think I'm getting honors taking your Mickey Mouse college courses.
Oh,
He
You
wasn't
were being
impressed.
feisty.
Yes. And and uh and then he said, well, that's your problem, and just whatever. He wasn't going to stop the smoking. And so then, well, I said, well, I guess my only other option is to report this to your insurance company because I'm sure they don't know you're allowing smoking in the classroom.
Oh, wow.
Now, 10 years later, when I went to go work at Olds College,
Hmm.
he ended up being the president.
Oh, wow.
And that's how come I got discharged from Olds College.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway, but before that, I went back to Grand Prairie, and now the paper is under new management. I got the job back.
right.
And but then I had a fiance that lived in Peace River,
Yes.
and he phoned me up and he says, "Why don't you come and visit me in Peace River for the weekend?" And I said, "Well, I don't think my car will make it up the Dunvegan Hill. It's a pretty steep hill."
Yeah.
And so he says, "Okay, I'll come." And he got as far as Claremont, which is just 7 miles outside of Grand Prairie, and a young 14-year-old boy who was running away from the RCMP in a high-speed chase
Mhm.
um, drove into him and killed him.
Wow. Oh, my.
And so the police informed me,
Yeah.
and I phoned my mom and I'm screaming, and she goes, "Oh, don't scream. What will the neighbors think?"
Oh,
And anyway, and I was in such distress, and suddenly I felt this warm sunbeam come down on me. I was just warm in sunshine,
yeah.
and and then I heard my fiance's voice say, um, "I'm okay. I love you, but
Wow.
remember, I'm okay."
That's amazing, Ida.
And
A beautiful
it's
comfort in this
again,
situation, right?
yeah, again, confirmation, like you said.
Yeah.
So, then now I went on to Edmonton and became editor of their weekly newspaper.
Right. Right.
And so, my mom had a medical emergency, and they flew her from Grand Prairie to Edmonton.
Right.
And I I visited her, and she was in really bad shape, and they had to do surgery on her. So they were doing surgery on her, and she died on the table.
Yeah.
And and she said she went to heaven,
Yeah.
and she saw her eight sisters that had passed before her,
Right.
and they said, "Irene, it's so good to see you, and we're so happy to see you, but it's not your turn. You have to go back."
Wow.
And so they brought her back from the passing, and when she told me that, I've never been afraid of dying
Right.
because I've had all these experiences.
Yeah.
I was one of the last people to visit my grandfather, and my auntie, and um, I I somehow knew at such a young age it was it was just the next stage.
Yeah. Just a transition just from one
Yeah,
thing to the next, but you don't really die. Your body does, but you go on.
yeah.
You
Yeah, and my mom, and especially my mom lived 50 years more. And
right.
when she passed,
Beautiful.
you could tell that it was just a body, that her soul was gone. She didn't even look like herself anymore. Her
Exactly.
whole look changed.
Exactly.
And so yeah. So there I am, and I decided that I'm getting older. I'm about, I don't know, 25 or 26 now.
Yeah.
And so I applied for the public relations job at Olds College because as a journalist, you have to be available all the time,
Right.
day and night. And I wanted a 9 to 5 job. So I applied for the public relations job at Olds College.
Yeah.
Now, this is an interesting job interview. So I'm trying to get this job. I go, I lived on a farm till I was 9. Not very impressive. My dad was an agricultural field man. Didn't really have anything to do with me. I
Yeah,
incorporated agricultural matters into the newspapers that I've worked at.
right.
Well, didn't go very far. And
Yeah.
somewhere I brought out my trophy and put it on the table and I said in 1977 I won the provincial plowing match. And their faces just dropped. There was silence in the whole room. And because they knew I must have, because they
Right.
put on the plowing match.
Wow, that's
And
amazing.
again, I thank God for telling me, take that trophy.
Yeah, you listen.
You know, who would take a trophy to a job interview?
Right, right.
So, and at Olds College, I was representing the college at different functions. And at one Stampede function, I offered the bartender a ride home. And while I was driving him home, he realized that I was impaired.
Oh,
And so he took over the driving me home. He to his house,
oh,
and then he put me on his front couch and covered me up and took care of me. He could have molested me.
oh,
I was passed out practically by then.
wow.
And he didn't. He took me home. He took care of me.
Yeah,
And again, God put a gentleman in my life,
right.
this time a real gentleman that
Wow,
looked after me.
that's amazing.
And
So
uh,
protected, Ida. Hey, you're
yeah,
so protected and guided.
yeah.
It's such a beautiful
So,
thing to hear
excuse me.
these stories.
So at Olds College, I was the representative at the Small Business Week fair, which I think was in the Palliser Hotel at the beginning.
Right, right.
And I saw this tall blonde gentleman walk in, and I went,
Yeah.
I think I want him for a husband. And and he hung around, and then offered to take me for coffee after.
Yeah,
And after the presentation was over and the show was over, and I says, "Oh, I have to go to Olds. It's just going to be too long a trip."
yeah,
And he says, "Oh, okay," but he gave me his business card.
right.
So then the next week there was going to be a rodeo dance, and I was so excited because I love dancing and I love music.
Yeah.
And he told me he played music, so I thought that meant he liked dancing. As it turned out, he likes watching people
Oh,
dance
okay.
as a band member, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway, but so I wanted to invite him. So I look all through my house. I cannot find that business card. I look all through my office. It's not there.
wow.
I asked my coworker, "Did you have a card that you don't remember the guy?" Or no. And like I don't even remember his name, so I can't dial. We used to be
Right.
able to dial,
Yeah,
information and ask for a
yes,
phone number. No, I can't do that. So before nap time, before the dance, I said, "Okay, God, I think this guy's supposed to be my husband.
right,
So if that's true, you're going to have to show me where this card is."
right.
And so I had this dream, and he showed me that if I pick up my Kleenex box on the shelf of my windowsill, the card will be underneath. Why would it be there?
Yeah.
But anyway, there it was.
Wow, amazing.
And so I phoned him, and he says, "Oh, well, I was going to go do something else." I was 6 o'clock. The dance is probably, 9.
Yeah,
I was going to do something else, but sure, I'm game.
yeah,
So he came up,
yes.
and that was our first date,
Oh, wow.
and we ended up getting married, and then after, and he was in the oil patch, so he drank.
Yes,
I was an ex-newspaper person, so I drank.
yes,
And part of being a public relations officer is taking people out and schmoozing,
right,
drinking and stuff like that. So Ralph Klein wasn't the only one that drank
right.
as a reporter.
That's
So
true.
uh, I decided to take the next step and get pregnant. So our doctor said you both have to be sober for 3 months before you get pregnant. And while being good drunks, we stayed sober for 2 months.
Right, right,
And
right.
I got pregnant. Well, anyway, the kids grew up, and uh, my husband couldn't stay sober, so he didn't.
Right, right.
And but I'm raising these two kids by myself in Olds. And my son was 6 years old, and my daughter was 2 years old. We came to Calgary to see his older cousin play hockey. And
Right.
so we're way down in South Calgary, and it starts to snow, and we're heading home. It's about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then by the time we got to the Deerfoot Mall, it was a really snowing. And
Right.
by the time we got to Airdrie, it was a blizzard. And I said to God, God, you're going to have to show me where my friend Lois, who works at Olds, but lives in Airdrie,
Right.
lives, because we're not going to survive this blizzard.
Exactly.
And and I always sort of joke, God speaks very good English.
Right.
And God said, okay, take Yankee Drive. Something like that, where turn right and get on this Yankee Drive, and then turn right, and then turn left, and then look left.
Wow.
And so I do what I'm told, and there's her van,
Yeah,
just two
amazing.
houses down.
Isn't that
And I go, oh, wow, that worked great. So I went in and I says, Lois, there's a blizzard out here. And can we stay at your place, my kids and I?
yeah.
And she said, yes, but how did you find me? Because
Yeah,
she knew I'd never been to her place before.
right.
And I says, I don't know, God told me how to find you. And she said, well, God must have told you how to find me, because I moved here today.
Yes, isn't that something?
And that was just astonishing. Even if I knew
Oh,
where she
yeah.
lived before, I would not have ever known where she lived today.
Wow, wow. So
And
divinely guided, hey?
that was just amazing. And anyway, while I stayed in Olds, the kids were in daycare, and after after work every day, I drove down to Calgary for 2 winters to complete my degree, because after the Hong Kong flu and the accident, I had never finished my degree.
Right, okay.
So again, God helped me with that, because
Right.
driving in
Yes.
the winter was scary,
Yes.
and I wasn't used to being in a big city. And so anyway, so I got my degree,
Oh,
and I was just, my parents were just so happy.
yeah,
Anyway, so I was at Olds College, and I actually got to meet my one foster child who had saved my life. And then so she put a request into the Children's Advocate to have me um, do a survey of Indigenous children living in Caucasian foster homes. So I drove all around, and Alberta. I had six researchers with me, and I wrote the report. And I just feel that that was such a blessing too,
wow.
being able to share their stories.
Right,
Some of them were fabulous, and some of them were quite horrid. And
right.
so the Children's Advocate got a really good idea of what was happening.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, while
Wow.
I was at Olds College, that's when I started the literacy programs
Right,
at
right.
Olds, Didsbury, and Sundre. And
Yes.
I'd be traveling all around with all those people. And one year I took two volunteers and two students up to a conference in Edmonton. So there were five of us in one room.
All right.
So
Oh boy.
we there were people sleeping on a cot, on the floor, on the extra beds, and but we did it because they just couldn't afford it, and I had my way paid,
Right.
so we made a go of it.
Yeah.
And we had a great time, and that's when after that I got asked by the Department of Advanced Education to write a manual on how to run a literacy program, how to train
Yeah.
volunteers, how to assess students, and that sort of thing.
Yes.
And then I applied for a job at John Howard Society. Now, this is another very interesting interview. So
Right.
I'm sure God helped me with that job, because I didn't do such a great job.
Yeah, yeah.
They asked me what to do about recidivism. I didn't know what recidivism was. I said, I don't know.
Yeah,
And so they weren't very impressed. And
yeah.
then I leaned back on this old chair and the whole thing went tipping up. My bottom's looking at the ceiling. And as I go back, I go, fuck.
Yeah, right. Oh my
Somehow I still got the job. So
God,
you know God was involved.
that's
And
amazing.
and then their secretary comes up to me and says, "Oh, well, do you mind paying for the courier fee for your resume? It came collect." Now,
Right,
what business, especially a nonprofit,
yeah,
pays for a resume
right.
coming from out of town, uh,
Yeah,
for a job interview? Like, this
right.
is just crazy.
Yeah,
So I knew that, again, God was looking after me.
yes. Because your
And God,
husband sent it, right? You didn't even know that he
no,
could,
yeah, no,
like,
my
or
husband,
somebody. Yeah.
I guess thought that the guy was going to put it on his account,
Right,
the courier guy, because he was in with oil and gas, but he didn't. He sent it
right,
collect.
right. Of
Anyway, I guess maybe it was another way of showing me that God was still with me. I don't know.
course.
So
That's
I trained lots of people and then I got two adult literacy awards. And one time I when they're going to give me this adult not literacy, but adult educator award.
oh, okay. Yeah.
They said, well, I can't pick up this award because she's in jail. And you could hear all these people whispering, well, she shouldn't get the award then. If she's in jail, she
Oh,
shouldn't get the award. But then he says, well, she's working. So,
oh yeah, working in
yeah, because I was working in the jails at that time.
right.
I was teaching a class called Life Management.
Oh, okay.
And so anyway, it was interesting, and I started a whole new approach to literacy
Wow.
in basically in the world, and it was learn to be the boss,
Right.
and it was helping these people with criminal records because that's who John Howard works with.
Okay.
Uh, um, gain legal self-employment. A lot of them were self-employed, but it
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
always
Not
legal.
legal. Yeah.
And the Secretary of State was the one that invited me to write this book and paid for it.
Yeah, that
And so then I won the Canadian Literacy Champion Award, it was called.
wow.
And Senator Tommy Banks, the musician, the famous
Yeah.
Senator Tommy Banks made the presentation and gave me my award.
Wow.
And in it was um, uh, money, but also a new computer. And that was in 2000. So that was such a fabulous win
Yeah. So
to,
the
to
gift.
get that.
Yeah,
Yeah, because back then they were very expensive.
exactly.
And then I went from there to be the manager of the literacy helpline. And I share, and of course, funding is always limited for literacy.
Yeah.
So I'm in a room that has three different offices in it, like desks.
Yeah.
And I'm giving advice to people across the province, and first listening to their story of how they end up having a literacy problem. They were abused as a child. They
Yeah.
were English as a second language. They were fetal alcohol syndrome disorder victims,
Yes.
that sort of thing. And so I would listen to them, and then I'm sure God provided me with the wisdom and the compassion for each call. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of calls, and somehow I came up with the resources. Now I'm not that smart. So again, God is helping me with that. And they would say, how did you know how to deal with that situation?
Right.
Um, and um, and I would say, must be God. It's
Yeah.
not me.
Exactly.
And then I decided to help people avoid getting in jail. So I decided to move on. They say seven careers in a lifetime. Well, I think I've had more.
Yeah.
I applied to be at the Alberta Alcohol and Drug Abuse Commission
Yes.
because so many of my clients had alcohol or substance abuse.
Yes.
And I've always said that um, quite often uh, people that are struggling with addictions are square pegs trying to fit into society's round holes.
Right, right.
And they're doing the best they can because in the beginning, a substance or a behavior helps deal with the frustration and the anxiety and stuff like that.
Yes,
And then the brain changes. Like the old timers say, you can't take a cucumber and pickle it and make it a cucumber again.
right.
And I think that's what happens to the brain. It changes forever.
Yeah,
And so I had a real compassion for these people. People think people in jail have horns, and they just don't.
right.
And sometimes I said, having had challenges with alcohol myself, but by the grace of God go I.
Exactly.
So
You have that
anyway,
passion in your heart, right? Yeah,
yeah. And so I find that AA is quite male oriented.
right.
And so I've 42 years of abstinence
Yeah,
and
same.
much to God's grace.
Yes,
And I feel like we need to give women extra support because I think women drink or use a substance or a behavior for a different reason than men do.
right,
And often it is a survival mechanism gone screwy.
right,
And so I think because we have a built-in forgetting mechanism for pain and chaos,
right,
or else we would never have more than one child. So
right.
we go through 30 hours of labor and then we go, oh, let's have another one in,
True.
14 months.
We forget, even though we think
Yeah,
we do.
yeah. So 1/3 of my caseload in the 25 years I've been at ADAC and at Adult Addiction Services, um, I 1/3 of my population have been women, but
Right.
more than half of my clients that have died are women.
Wow. Oh, it's so
There isn't enough understanding.
right.
So I decided to become an accelerated resolution therapist
Oh,
while I was at Adult Addiction Services. This was a form of trauma therapy that was developed in Afghanistan about 20 years ago, and it it is a built on eye movement desensitization.
okay. Yeah.
And if people Google accelerated resolution therapy, they can see that it helps people through years, decades, a lifetime of trauma with 1 or 2 sessions.
Wow.
That's why it's called accelerated resolution therapy. I've had people that just come down, grown men, half bent over with shame, guilt, and addiction disorder,
Yes.
and walk out strong
Right.
and empowered.
That's amazing.
And the lady who wrote that book said that God gave her this information,
Wow.
and I believe it.
That's amazing. That's very
And not very many people even know about it. And
wow.
so I feel that uh, it's important to live your journey.
Yes.
And um, so I've been attending the Center for Spirituality by Zoom in the mornings on Sunday, and then I attend their workshops once a month.
Right.
Sorry.
That's okay.
And
And then you go
I wanted to
to, hey?
what's that?
And then you go to the recovery church.
Yeah, and I go to recovery church in the evening, and both to support people there.
Right. Yes.
And again, quite often the women, there aren't that many women. I want to support them and make them feel like they're, it's based on the Alcoholics Anonymous big book,
Right. Yes.
and which was written by men for men.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I keep trying to nudge them. When I went to the Alcoholics Anonymous World Conference, in Vancouver this year. They have changed the language,
Yeah, you were saying
but
that's
they're very,
causing a thing. Yeah.
yeah, the local people are very stubborn
Right. Yeah.
about letting go of this language that has existed since, 90 years.
It takes time, I think, Ida, hey, to just change things like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think God has put me on this earth to nudge them.
Yeah. You're a change,
And it
you're a
can be
change
so
maker.
frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the most wonderful AA groups in Calgary is called Walking Eagle.
Oh, okay.
And it's an Indigenous group,
Right.
which I feel very comfortable in.
Yeah.
And they're pretty well the only group that's half men and half women.
Oh, okay.
And again, I think that's that Indigenous wisdom.
Right. Yes.
And that the LGBTQ and two-spirited people have always been accepted by the Indigenous people.
Yes. That's good.
And so I guess that's what I'll keep doing.
Yeah.
My children are now adults, of course, and they live in Calgary. I'm so blessed because none of my mom's children lived with near her, you
Right.
know.
Right. Yeah.
And um, in 2016, my brother from a different mother
Yeah.
and my almost fiance, we talked about it, but anyway, died Christmas Day
Right.
Eve
Oh,
from cancer.
yes.
And and then in February 2017, um, I started dating a man that I met at Recovery Church.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm sure again, God gave me him um, just um, to help me through the pain.
Yes.
And it's beautiful to have a partner on this a similar path, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Of abstinence when my first marriage didn't last.
Right. Exactly.
And in 2023, I spent 6 months with spinal inflammation, which because my spine was very vulnerable. Because earlier I had been rear-ended twice by vehicles
Okay.
in 1 month.
Oh, wow.
And so I had missed 6 months of work back then.
Yes.
And then I missed another 6 months with a spinal inflammation. So long COVID
Yes.
hit me where I was at my weakest.
Wow.
And then um, um, my gentleman friend that year almost died with 98% kidney failure because uh, we went to Ontario and back by airplanes, and his legs, because he's taller, crushed his internal organs. And
Right.
he ended up with 98% kidney failure.
Wow.
And they had taken by ambulance to the foothills, and they saved his life.
Yes.
So both of us have faced death
Yeah.
and feel God has saved us, saved my mother.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and we just don't have any question about it. So
Exactly.
a after that happened to both of us, I came home from work one night and he was on the floor. I said, "What are you doing on the floor?"
Yeah.
And he says, "I'm proposing to you." And
Oh.
I went, "Why?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Because I want to spend the rest of my life with you."
Oh.
So at the age of 71, I became engaged.
Oh. Beautiful.
And so I just want to let people know that there is hope. There's always hope.
Yes.
And I at work now, it's interesting. The Alberta government forces you to retire at 72, and then they beg you to come back to work with no benefits.
Right. Right.
And but I enjoy working with the Indigenous population, especially, and the elderly, because we have 60, 80-year-old people dealing with addiction, or their children are, their
Right.
adult children.
Yes.
And they they, I think, prefer to talk to somebody that's got white hair,
Yeah, yeah.
you
You have
know.
a little wisdom in you after all
Hmm.
these years.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, and that's a really good point. You know, the supervisors just hand out the sheets that these people write on. We don't know what their story is or anything. And
right.
quite often it'll be something that I've experienced or someone I know.
Yeah,
Someone who has a back injury, someone who has um uh experienced prejudice or
right.
um a woman struggling as a single parent or things like that
Yes, yes.
and or I consider myself a cowgirl still
Yeah,
and on Fridays I wear cowboy hats and stuff
right,
and they
right.
go the stampede's over, well this is my heritage you
Yes.
know and then I'll get the one guy in the waiting room that's wearing a cowboy hat
So you can
and
really relate. Yeah,
yeah and they yeah.
that's beautiful. And Ida, there's a couple stories that you told me, and one was you said that will you share about the man that came in and just seemed so just looked yellow, is ready to
Oh yeah,
die,
sure.
and he was just on his last leg basically, and
Yeah,
you really talked to him
yeah,
and it changed his life.
yeah, yeah. So this happened, fortunately, quite a few years ago because it changed my practice.
Right.
So this gentleman came in. He was only about 40 years old.
Yeah.
Um, and he was yellow with hepatitis and liver disease.
Yes.
And he says, well, if I want to get a liver transplant, I have to talk to you guys. And he says, but I don't think there's any point because I'm at stage 4 already.
Yeah.
And I says, well, I've dealt with this kind of stuff before.
Mhm.
And I said, you're not going to die on my watch if I have any say about it.
Right.
And he says, well, what are you going to say about it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, we've got a plan. And I said, we can do this.
Yeah.
So this office is used to dealing with this kind of a situation,
Yeah.
and I am determined to help you. We can do this.
Yes. I love
And
that. The
he
we.
said, so yeah. So he did our program, our day program, which
Yeah.
is only a month long, but it's very, we used to call it intensive
Right.
and it'll save you 3 to 5 years worth of therapy
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
take our 1 month course.
Right. Right.
I think everybody should take it. But anyway,
Yeah.
because it's not so much about addiction, but it's about living healthy, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Mentally and physically.
Yeah.
So anyway, he phoned me one Christmas and he said, "Can I have some time with you, Ida?" And I said, "Sure. I've got a noon a break here. Then I'll see you during my noon break." So he came in and he said, "Ida, I owe you my life." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because I am healthy now." I says, "Yeah, but that you did the work."
Yeah.
He says, "No, you said we can do this. My
Right.
whole life, people have said, you quit drinking, you smarten up, you grow up, you go for treatment."
Yes.
And he said, you said we can do this. And it was the first time in my life I felt somebody was in my corner.
That's so beautiful.
And
That
that's another example of God giving me the words to say.
yes, when you use that we, it really touched something in him and that he
Hmm.
felt cared for and that you were really alongside of him. So
Yeah.
I thought that was a beautiful story. And another one was you said that that there was a gentleman that with a literacy thing and he came and
Oh,
said to
yeah.
you that he sent his
Yeah.
he called it a
Yeah.
love note, but you can explain what that was, and that was a very touching story.
That was in Olds. And this, you know, there are uh, very, very many people who are very successful in life, but cannot read or write.
Exactly.
And my neighbor at one point, I says, "What education have you got?" And he says, "Oh, I've got half my grade 12." I says, "Oh, good." And like he's a millionaire. And then he says, no, I've only got grade 6.
Oh, wow.
I have half of my grade 12. I
Yeah.
have grade 6.
Oh, that's
And I came across another gentleman who couldn't even write his name until he was 70 years old, and yet he was a very successful carpenter. He
right.
could read blueprints and everything, but
Yeah.
yeah, and I knew somebody who would go to the bank with his hand in a sling all the time, or say, well, I don't have my glasses, so can you look after this for me?
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so this gentleman was in my tutoring class, and he came one day and said, I am doing so good. I wrote my wife a love note. And I said, really? Oh, I'm so proud of you. I said, what did it say, if you don't mind sharing? He said, gone downtown.
Aw.
And 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 I go, wow, that's great. And people have said, how could that be a love note? Because he could never write one before. He couldn't let him say, I love you so much. I want you to know where I am,
Yes.
and and that sort of thing. And
Oh,
he was just beaming.
that's
And that was part of the language we were learning, downtown. It's the
down.
same
Yeah.
word pretty near.
Yes.
Yeah, it was just great.
That's beautiful, Ina. That's so beautiful.
And
And one other story that was, and I don't know when this was, but you said that you really felt to phone a client on your day
oh,
off,
oh,
and
oh, I'm so glad you remembered
had
that.
to go to your
Yeah,
office to
yeah, I will.
get the
Yeah,
number.
yeah. So I work 9-hour days, and so that meant every other Friday I got off.
Mm,
And so this Friday was my EDO day, my earned day off.
right.
And I kept getting these ESP messages from my client, and I often do get them. And
Yeah.
I would phone them, and they'd say, "I've been looking for your number. You know, I have used this gift for my whole life." But
Yes.
anyway, so and I could tell this was a serious situation, this message. And so I had to go downtown to my office and get her number, because we're not allowed to have numbers in our care. And so I pulled up her number. Well, first of all, when I walk in, they say, "What are you doing here?" "Oh, I'm going to tidy up my office."
Yeah.
you know. Okay, well, they could believe that.
Right.
And so I'm going to tidy up my office, and then I phone her, and she says, "Ida, how did you know to phone me?" And I said, "I don't know. I got this ESP message from God that you needed me to phone you."
Yes.
And she says, "Yes." I says, "So what's happening?" She says, "I'm laying here in the bathtub trying to figure out how to kill myself."
Wow. Yeah. So,
And what if I hadn't listened to that ESP message?
yes, you were just,
And she didn't know if she was going to electrocute herself or just try to drown herself.
wow.
And I
So
just,
beautiful.
every a day doesn't go by that I have had guidance and divine intervention from God.
It's so beautiful, Ida. And just the other thing was, I don't know if you have it there, but you had that plaque. You said someone just gave you, or sorry, is it
Oh yeah,
he
I do have that.
made?
Yeah.
And because I know you've been through a lot, but to get those appreciations from people, really helps because you deal with very serious things. But you say you use humor too, which is beautiful. But it's amazing that, you get these little gifts and rewards of people appreciating so much what you do.
Oh, my house is full of handmade gifts.
Yeah,
Uh, Little plaques that people have made me, or coasters, or
yeah.
like financially they're not worth any much,
Right, but there's so
but
much
so
love.
much to my heart.
Of course.
And yeah, I'm just been so blessed.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and yet, like lots of times, like I got fired lots of times, and finally, when I was 58 years old, I got a diagnosed with ADHD.
Right. Yeah,
So
you're
now I know why I lost all those jobs. I'm I
yeah, you haven't been without your struggles, but look at your heart and how you've been used.
Yeah.
So
So
we're all like that. We're
one
not
of these little examples is this little thing. "Ida, you gave me the security to access my ability to find hope."
Wow.
faith, and charity and love within myself and others. Thank you for paying it forward, and I will too.
Wow. That's
And
so
this
beautiful.
plaque that you're talking about, this gentleman came up to me at an AA meeting recently
Yes.
and said, Ida, you saved my life. You were my counselor, like 10 years ago.
Right.
And like often I'll remember faces, but I didn't remember this gentleman's face. And
Right.
he said, and then now when I listen to your shares at an AA meeting, it really helps me.
Yes.
And make it sound doable
Yes.
to get sober or abstinent
Yeah.
and stay there. And he says, you've been such a big help.
Yeah.
And then he gave me this plaque,
Aw.
and it's Ida. And it says, intelligent, devoted, an authentic child of God.
So beautiful, Ina. Oh, you're gonna make me cry. That is
Yeah.
really
So
it
that,
doesn't it make it worth it?
yeah,
Sometimes you do go through a lot of things, right? Like you said, you haven't been without your challenges and but we're just in a soul and a human body, and in this human experience, it isn't always so lovely all the time. But then
yeah,
look at your heart and how you've helped people and how it's appreciated, and just those times when you can feel discouraged, then you look at those little messages and plaque
yeah,
and say, wow, I am making a difference because I'm loving people and trying to let my light shine and help them through their
yeah.
struggles,
I
right?
like that expression. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I remember that song as in Bible school.
yeah.
Let my little light
Light
shine.
shine. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna let it shine. Yeah, so
yeah,
so beautiful. Thank you so much for
yeah.
sharing, Ida. And
Thank you for the
I
opportunity.
can you show us the little doll? You said you got your
Oh,
at an auction, you got a little doll
yeah,
that no one else
yeah,
bid on, and it's just the
yeah.
same size as when you were born.
I
Oh, I
I
thought
put
that
her
was so
away.
sweet that you
So
said you're the
this
only one who bid
this was
on it.
at a fundraiser at outside of Airdrie for the Airdrie animal shelter. It's
Right,
totally funded by donations. Totally, no, the
right,
city doesn't give 1 cent
right.
to it, and it's run by volunteers. And this is my little Ida.
Oh, that's
And I think this is about how big I was when I was born,
yeah,
and it was a silent auction,
yeah.
and nobody else bid on her.
Oh,
And I said, I have to have her.
yeah, so special. And look how you know that you were divinely brought into this world and just you barely lived, but you did, right? And now you have
Yeah,
this little doll to always remember. Yeah, so so
yeah.
beautiful. Yes, thank you so much for
Well,
sharing.
thank you. I really enjoyed sharing.
Yes, and do you have anything that you would like to say to a listener that might be listening that's struggling today? Just something to encourage them, Ida.
Um, well, I have a quote from Corinthians, 1 Corinthians, verse 12,
Mhm.
and it said, God has gifted you. Have a purpose in life, and God has gifted you. And and I know it feels like, well, um, just give me a second here.
Okay.
This is what I say to when I'm teaching, that that this is worth $5
Yes.
as it comes out of the machine, and then I crunch it up and I say, how much is it worth now?
Right.
And they'll say, well, $5. And I'll say, that's like us. We
Yeah.
might feel like we've been beaten up. We might feel like we're not worth anything. We might have people telling us we're a waste of skin. But you know what? We're just as valuable to God now as before we ever had
Yeah.
this disease, especially addiction.
Wow.
Nobody asks to to um to have an addiction. It is in my mind that one of the only situations where the brain of an organism is killing the very organism it's living in.
Wow. Yeah.
And
Yes.
um, you know,
That's
if you go to a 12-step meeting or a smart recovery meeting or a Dharma recovery meeting, which is a Buddhist approach, the thing is that um, you might not agree with everybody and you might not agree with even the philosophy,
Right.
but just t take what you need and leave the rest.
That's a good
And
point, Ida.
and you know, and you know, it's said that when Bill wrote Alcoholics Anonymous big book, that he wasn't as smart as some people might think he was either, but
Right.
God gave him those words.
Yes, yes.
And
You have to have
so
that higher power, source, God, whatever
yeah,
you call it. And and that's what we, that's what can make such a difference.
yes, yeah. And so it's doable, just like I told that
Yeah,
gentleman.
that's beautiful.
And when we do state a step four and everybody panics because it says take a fearless and moral inventory. And the old timers make, well, all the things, all the mistakes you made. Meh, meh, meh. That's not an inventory. God God wants us to look at what he gave us, the
Yeah,
good things.
yeah,
And yes, there's going to be challenges, and yes, we've made mistakes, and that doesn't mean that it's and step 10 is to make your amends promptly, continue um do personal inventory, and when wrong, promptly admit it. And
yes, yeah,
I'm at 72, I'm still learning to do that. Because sometimes I don't make those amends promptly, but the sooner you make those amends, the
that,
sooner you have peace and joy.
yes, that's beautiful.
So
Yes,
I
so good.
I
Yeah,
and you know, I encourage people not to give up
yeah,
and try different things, try different meetings, different
yeah,
smart recovery, AA, whatever,
yeah.
CANA,
Right.
whatever.
There's
And
so much out there, right? It doesn't have to be one way
yeah,
because
or
we,
even
you know,
like adult addiction services is free and you
yeah.
can get treatment pretty well that night. Yeah,
Right. Yes.
yeah,
That's so good. Well,
yeah,
thank you so much, Ida. You
yeah,
just have a lovely story, and I just love how much you've been guided in life, and just that comes from the roots of your dad. I know because he had just that that in him, that ESP, and you guys
yeah,
just thought that was natural, and
yeah,
you're open to it, and so that's what we all need to learn to be. So
yeah,
thank you so much on
yeah.
just.
My pleasure. And thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you have a absolutely great day, and we will talk to you again sometime.
You betcha. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey.
Bye. I hope you've enjoyed listening to our guest's story of their spiritual journey today. If somehow it's helped you or resonated with you, please do leave a comment below. Maybe you're going through your own time of and spiritual journey, so maybe it's helped you in some way. Also, please like and subscribe to this channel so you'll be sure to get more and hear more of these spiritual journeys. Thank you very much for being with us today.